Over time on YouTube, you've probably stumbled across someone like this. This is Jinx, just one of the many different reaction channels out there. You've probably seen him or someone else react to a video like so. You may even be subscribed to one of these channels, like one of the more popular ones, such as the Fine Brothers with their Kids, Teens, Adults, Seniors, and YouTubers React series. Or maybe even someone like this.
Oh, hello there. I didn't realize you were watching.
This is Ethan Klein, creator of the h3h3Productions YouTube channel. He runs the channel alongside his wife, Ela Klein, who is working on her own clothing line and sells her own art. This isn't your typical reaction channel, by literal matter of law. In fact, I actually don't think the Fine Bros and Jinx are even worth comparing to h3h3. Someone like Ethan and Ela deserve a lot more respect than some of these other reaction channels I've seen. I think that Ethan has a lot more going for him in terms of comedy and presentation as well. Now, while the channel does consist of both Ethan and Ela, Ethan is more the focus of the channel, Ela having less of a presence. Not saying that Ela isn't important in her own respect, but for the duration of this video I'll mostly be referring to Ethan instead of Ela. From your first impressions you may think that Ethan is a bit weird, but as you delve into this channel you'll see how much more ridiculous things can get. So let's delve right into h3h3 Productions. On April 29th, 2011, Ethan had officially created the h3h3 Productions channel. The name h3h3 Productions came from the first letter of Ethan and Ela's names. The H means Ela, and the 3 is meant to be the reverse of the letter E, so like Ethan. I guess for the reason it's a 3 instead of an E is because 1, h3h3 Productions was already taken as a username, or 2, h3h3 Productions sounds weird as it could be said as he Productions. Hehe. I'm not sure why. On the other hand, it's 2 H3s instead of just 1, but hey, it's not my channel to decide. Currently the channel has over 4.7 million subscribers and gets a daily average of 1.5 million views. You already know that h3h3 Productions is a reaction channel, but why do I state that those such as the Fine Bros aren't even worth comparing? Well, it's quite simple. With many reaction channels like Jinx or maybe even the Fine Brothers, people will subscribe to them for the videos they're watching and not the host themselves, whether they know it or not. The first thing that makes h3h3 different is the fact that people are only interested in Ethan and Ela and not necessarily the content in the videos they watch on the show. To prove this point, there have been several videos of theirs that aren't even in a reaction to any other video, like Vape Nation, How to Make a YouTube Vlog, and 100 Layers of Beanies, just to name a few. The content he displays only serves as a platform to which he can use for parody and comedic value. The typical YouTube channel goes through and watches the whole video without asking the copyright holder's permission, which has made them not as popular as they once were. But h3h3 doesn't steal content. They, in turn, try to make their own content around other people's videos. The difference between them and the other reaction channels is that h3h3 only shows few clips from the video at hand, while other reaction channels watch the full video in question, with exceptions to the Fine Bros and h3h3. It's a pretty basic format. He introduces the video he's going to watch and the idea behind it. Then he shows a small clip, stops the video, and proceeds to give his opinion on it. Then shows a small clip, stops the video, and proceeds to give his opinion on it. Rinse and repeat that same type of formula till the end and you basically got yourself an H3 video. To be fair, that would be a watered down video at best, because H3's videos are a lot less repetitive than what I'm describing to you now. He basically shows a few highlights from the video that he talks about, and only shows clips that he thinks would be most worthy of addressing. At the end of the video, he gives his overall opinion and closes things out, sometimes with a gag or over-the-top response. No matter how you look at it, the content they make revolves around the personality of Ethan and Ela themselves, and rarely the video they're actually watching. To describe his content, Ethan likes to use the term goofing on them to get an idea of how he treats those in the videos he watches. Basically, by saying this, he's implying that most of the things in their videos really should not be taken too seriously. And I agree. Most everything he says and makes fun of are all jokes, memes, and just people being really stupid, like climbing on top of news vans. There are occasions when they'll make a video addressing something more serious, but if that's the case, he'll oftentimes make it more clear and take it more seriously, like when he exposed the CSGO lotto scheme or his interviews. But with that said, it's still incredibly obvious when he's pulling a goof and when he's trying to be serious. But getting more on track here, when it comes to the fact that other people's videos are the base for their content has not only helped them, but hindered them. It's honestly quite interesting, seeing how different people react to h3h3's videos on them. If Ethan makes a video on someone, there are a few default responses you would expect. Either they'll 1. Take the video way too seriously and end up getting in unnecessary drama, 2. Think it's funny and end up collaborating with him, or 3. Not really have much of a public reaction in general. Each one of these outcomes have all happened before, and the severity of each one is unique. Those who don't have much of a reaction range from saying nothing about it to maybe sharing the video and or tweeting about it. Those who enjoy the video will oftentimes give them a shout out or go as far as to do a collaboration video with them. In the case of collaborations, they've ended up making videos with Ty Lopez, Joey Salons, DJ Khaled, and others. And that's not even to mention the people they've had show up on their podcasts, which I'll get to later. Aside from those collaborations, they've also made videos with people that they didn't make a video on prior, such as JonTron, iDubbbz, PewDiePie, Filthy Frank, and a lot of others. Those who have had more negative reactions to their videos have caused them a lot of trouble. They've had to deal with multiple different copyright claims, strikes, and even being sued. While they did end up winning the lawsuit, as many have pointed out, this has affected a lot more people than just them alone. For them to be declared as legally in the right, and not only that, but having something like FUPA, the Fair Use Protection Association, created, is kind of a big deal for fair use and copyright laws in general. Not too long ago, podcasts on YouTube started to become a bigger deal, and something that you would expect to see from a lot of people. At some point, Ethan and Hila decided that they themselves wanted to make a podcast. So, on December 20th, 2016, the very first episode of the H3 podcast was released. About 4 months later, and 6 episodes in, they decided that because of the popularity of the podcast, they would move it to its own channel. From that, on April 7th, 2017, they made the H3 podcast its own official channel. As of now, it has over 800,000 subscribers, making it one of, if not the biggest podcasts on YouTube, depending on what exactly you consider a podcast. In the podcast, they do a few types of shows. First is Top of the Week, where they talk about relevant news and stories that wouldn't be enough to use up a whole podcast. Second is singular topics that are typically a lot bigger and would fill up a whole podcast. And finally, third, they will oftentimes have guest interviews with different well-known people such as Vsauce, Keemstar, Philip DeFranco, many more and more to come. Because of this, each episode of the podcast gets around 1 million views each time. Every now and then, they have more controversial figures appear on the podcast, like Jake Paul or SoFlo Antonio. Some dislike the fact that they are treated with respect, despite their well-known vile reputation. But the idea behind it is that not only do we get to see their side of the story in an honest and respectful manner, but if Ethan and Hila were harsh to those who have done things wrong, then it would be a lot harder to get people on the podcast in the first place. The H3 podcast isn't the only channel they own, as for a good amount of time, a lot of their focus was put into their, at the time, second channel. It went by the basic name of just simply Ethan and Hila, although the channel URL says h3h3Productions, meaning this really is just a second channel to h3h3. On this channel, the focus wasn't so much on Ethan, but Hila and Ethan equally. A lot of the content was just vlogs, a few reactions here and there, and whatever else they found to be of interest. For a time, they almost entirely abandoned h3h3 for this channel, but eventually came back to figure out where their priorities were. They later said that this was their hardest point in their career. These days, they don't really use the channel, it's more of just an archive for what they once did on it, and for any other sort of trash posts or extras that wouldn't really be suitable for the main channel. Ethan's humor, charisma, and overall appearance makes him a large target for the certain creation of memes. There aren't many channels on YouTube that have spawned as many memes as h3h3. There have been many inside jokes with a lot of YouTubers, but never full-scale memes to the likenesses of h3h3. The kind of videos they make are perfect for meme culture. Whether the meme is about Ethan himself or just created from h3h3, they have all been fairly popular. There are also a few inside jokes with the subscribers, things that haven't really or needed to go beyond his channel, like the "don't give Pyro a platform to defend himself" meme, or things such as Hila being Ethan's sister or caretaker, when in reality she's his wife. Ethan has deeply strengthened his connection with his viewers by letting them make memes of him. Every joke that has ever become popular within his fanbase, he himself always ends up joking about, which some YouTubers don't do. In fact, a lot of the reoccurring memes and jokes in the videos have been created in his comments by his subscribers. How he handles his fanbase is extremely intelligent, and I could recommend most people try to do it in the same way he does. Ethan is just plain goofy, and of course that's exactly what he intends to display in his videos. It's funny. He's funny. Beyond that, he's also one of the most respectable people on YouTube. He's always trying to help, as indicated by videos like "Sold to the Highest Bidder," "Humongous Needs Our Help," "Leave Ken Bone Alone," "Is YouTube Over?" and I could keep going on. But my point is, it's clear that he genuinely cares about the people in the internet community. Ethan is also very friendly and laid back. Even when he's making fun of someone in one of his videos, it's clear that he doesn't mean anything against the person he's talking about. He's also quite extroverted and doesn't really care how he looks as long as everyone is having fun. Something about him just makes you feel like you could get along with him, even if he didn't really know you. Hila's case is a bit different though, as she's a bit more shy and doesn't as much care to be the center of focus. Although throughout the time they've been on YouTube, Hila has greatly evolved to be more outgoing. At first she would only ever be the one behind the camera, but later down the road she started to say more and make more of an appearance. You don't get the idea that she's rude or mean in any sense, but she still seems a bit out of the ordinary. But rightfully so, as English isn't her native language. Because of this, people like to say that she sounds like she's on drugs or something, when in reality she just has a hard time pronouncing some words. Overall, it's easy to see how they could probably end up being on YouTube for a very long time. The format of their show, and constant news relating to YouTube and internet culture allows them to almost always have the security that they'll have something to make a video on. And as long as they don't stray too far away from what they do now, I can see how their content could continue to remain entertaining. I think that they're in a bit of a unique position, as I find it hard to believe that you could just replace who they are, what they represent, and what they've done.